Hello students, this is Professor Faiz Raut from Jain College of Engineering Department of MBA. I'm teaching subject Legal and Business Environment. I'm in Module 5. This is the 6th lecture of Module 5. In this lecture, I'm going to discuss regarding structure of Indian industry. As per your syllabus, you have public sector industry and private sector industry in this section. Well, public sector industry is the list of companies which come under public sector and has government holding of more than 51%. This government holding can be of central government or state government or combination of any of these two. Next is the private sector industry. This private sector industry consists of companies which are owned and controlled by the private players or the private individuals or the private companies. So 51% or more shares will be held by private individuals and private companies in this sector. Okay. Next is about public sector industry. Well, in this lecture, students, I am not going to talk about private sector industry much. I'm going to discuss regarding the objectives and the performances and the problems related to only public sector industry. Okay, so let's begin. So in public sector is a section of the economy that is owned and operated by the government, not the private businesses or individuals. The common public can have a share in the public sector company when this public sector company is listed on the stock exchanges. And the government of India has established public sector corporation in various spheres of activity to achieve their totality the national objectives. So public sector companies are there in almost every sector of the economy. Okay, starting from healthcare to defense to consumer goods to basic industries. Okay, to help the common public, to help the society as a whole, to help the economy as a whole, public sector has been established. And this was the main motive of the 5-year plan which started in 1948 resolution of industrial policy. Okay, in this lecture I'm going to discuss regarding the objectives of the public sector, the classification of the public sector enterprises, the performance of the public sector enterprises in India, and the problems of the public sector enterprises in India. Okay, so let's begin with the first one, objectives of public sector. The public sector should make investment only in those areas where investment is of infrastructure nature. Okay, because huge capital will be required, and huge capital initially can be risked by the government, and they need to provide this capital in order to boost the economy or to take care of the people in the economy. So where the investment is high, where the infrastructure is high, the public sector comes under play. Then investment is necessary for facilitating growth and development as a whole. Okay, next is the public sector should come in where the investment is essentially for preservation and augmentation of basic resources of the country, like land, forest, water, ecology, science, technology, or for running key infrastructure facility. For example, few years back, the construction of roads, okay, construction of railway lines, construction of airports, construction of dams, bridges, everything were used to be controlled by government. Later on, government started giving to private infrastructure companies as and when they started getting capital, and the performance of private sector was improving. The infrastructure facilities provided by the private sector and managed by private sector was improving. So later on it got shifted, but initially it was only the investment from the public sector in these activities. And the next objective is, in the case of large part of the public sector operation where commodities or services are produced and distributed, unless it is necessary for protecting the poorest in the country. Okay, so some of the activities or some of the sectors, some of the companies in this public sector are such, in order to protect the poor, they are running the company. Because the main objective, the primary objective of public sector is not to gain profits, which is there for the private sector. The main objective of public sector is for the welfare of the society. So wherever the welfare of the society is important, so public sector is there in that there in that industry. Okay, next we'll go to classification of public sector enterprises. Well, this public sector enterprises have been classified on the basis of the turnover what they have, on the basis of the net worth of the company, and the level of profits they are making. So this public sector enterprises have been divided into three types of companies. One type of company is called as Maharatna. Next, below Maharatna comes Navratna. Below Navratna comes Mini Ratna. Okay, so Maharatna are the type of the companies which are performing the best in the public sector. Navratna comes the second, and Mini Ratna comes the third category of companies. Okay, so I'll go with Maharatna. Maharatna companies which come under this, they are listed on stock exchanges with a minimum prescribed public shareholding under SEBI regulations, whatever the regulations are there. They are listed on stock exchanges. And for a company to be a Maharatna, the average annual turnover should be more than 20,000 crores during the last 3 years, consecutive years. And an average annual net worth should be more than 10,000 crores during the last 3 years. An annual net profit of more than 2,500 crores during the last 3 years. And if the company satisfies these conditions, only then it can be considered under Maharatna. So as of now, as of 2019, there are 10 Maharatnas in India. Some examples are BHEL, Bharat Heavy Electricals, Bharat Petroleum, Coal India, NTPC, Steel Authority of India, Power Grid Corporation of India. These are some of the examples of Maharatna. Okay, next comes Navratna. Well, Navratna, any company to be qualified as a Navratna, it should have a turnover of 20,000 crores, which is the basic of Maharatna. But Navratna has a score of companies. The score has been given according to the net profit to net worth, total manpower cost to total cost of production or cost of services, profit before depreciation, okay, and then total capital employed, and PBIT to turnover, or earnings per share, or intersectoral performances. Based on all this, a company will be Navratna. And if this Navratna company performs well, then it can go to Maharatna as well. But for a company to have a Navratna, it should have a score of 60, which has been given on these parameters. And as of 2019, there are 14 Navratnas. For example, Bharat Electronics Limited, okay, Engineers India Limited, Hindustan Aeronautical Limited, Mahanagar Telephone Nigam Limited or MTNL, Power Finance Corporation Limited, then Shipping Corporation of India Limited, and some of etc. So 14 Navratnas are there in India. Next in this category comes Mini Ratna. Well, mini Ratna are again classified into two categories. Okay, the level 1 category, or the first category in Mini Ratna, the criteria should be that they should have made profit in the last 3 consecutive years, and they should have a pre-tax profit of 30 crores annually. Okay, and if it satisfies this criteria, then it comes under Mini Ratna. And Mini Ratna category 2 is just they have made a profit of last 3 years continuously. And if any of the company doesn't satisfy this, then they are in the neither of the Maharatna, Navratna or Mini Ratna categories. Okay, some examples of Mini Ratna are Airports Authority of India, Baumal Lorry and Company Limited. It's a container carrier company of India. Then BSNL. Okay, BSNL, the situation has been deteriorated much, and even now in Mini Ratna, Air India also comes, which was a Maharatna at one point of time in year 2002. It was considered as Maharatna of India. Now it is in Mini Ratna. And another example maybe Mazgaon Dock and Pawan Hans Helicopters Limited. And these companies come under Maharatna, Mini Ratna, sorry. So these were three of the classified companies in the public sector enterprises of India. Next, two things is remaining. I want to talk about performance of public sector in India and the problems of the public sector enterprises in India. Okay, let's begin with the performance. Okay, let's see how is the performance. There are 6 points I have listed down. Okay, first is employment generation, contribution to NDP, or the net domestic product, then contribution to gross domestic capital formation. Then next is foreign exchange earnings. Next, contribution to government exchequer. What is the contribution of these enterprises to government? Then last is profitability. Okay. Well, employment generation, if I want to talk about, is we have, as a country, we have invested much for performance, improving the performance of public sector, and the problem of unemployment was there in India from time in memorial. So to remove this unemployment problem, many of the people were given employment opportunities in public sector undertakings, and still there was about 182 lakh jobs in 2004 in public sector, and it has been reducing. And in the year 2011, recent data which I received, in the year 2011, the employees are 1,50,000 people. That means they have reduced in the public sector. So employment generation, as per say, the performance of public sector is not that good. Okay. Second is contribution to NDP. Well, in spite of huge investment in public sector enterprises, contribution is little portion of the NDP of our country. Although the average rate of growth in investment in public sector enterprises remained very high, but the share of public sector enterprises in the in the net domestic product is increasing at a very slow rate. Okay, and third is contribution to gross domestic capital formation. Well, the contribution of these sectors in gross domestic capital is also increasing at a very slow rate, from 3.5% during the first plan period of 1951 to 56. The recent data which I got is it has increased from 3.5% to only 10.7% during the seventh plan period. That means seventh plan period we will come across early 90s. So in a period of maybe 45 to 50 years, only this much has increased from 3.5 to 10.7. Okay. Next is foreign exchange earnings. Okay, the foreign exchange earnings which has been held by the public sector enterprises has gradually increased from 35 crores in 1965-66 to 170 crores in 69-70, and then to 10,000 crores in 92-93. Well, but in physical terms, the rate of growth of these earnings is still very less. Okay, and nowadays this foreign exchange earnings are very low in public sector enterprises, and public sector enterprises are going in losses. So earnings are the next level for them. So basically they have to be first pulled out from the loss making company. Next is contribution to government exchequer. Well, this contribution can be in the form of dividend or corporate tax, excise duties, custom duties, and it is somewhere around 7,000 crores in the fourth plan to 85,000 crores in the 10th plan. But a good portion of this contribution has been done at the cost of increased tax burden on the people of the country. So not a good contribution. And last one is profitability. In respect of profitability, the public sector are showing a very dismal picture, a very bad picture. Although some public sector enterprises are earning a good amount of profit, but there are good number of other public enterprises that are incurring huge losses. So because of this, the net effect is the net profit from all these enterprises is not good. It is under losses itself. So profitability is a huge problem. Well, they are not meant for profitability, but to survive a company. Again, the survival of the company depends on the profits. Okay. So this was about the performance of public sector. Now I come to problems of public sector enterprises in India. Okay. These are the problems. First is endowment constraints. Second, underutilization of capacity. Third is absence of rational pricing. Fourth is technological gap. Fifth is government interference. Sixth, evil competition and sabotage. Seventh, marketing constraint. And last is surplus manpower. Okay, let's see one by one. Okay, endowment constraints. This means that some of the public sector enterprises, particularly some of the loss incurring enterprises, are suffering from endowment constraint, as the selection of the sites of these enterprises were done on political consideration rather on rational considerations. That means because of some political pressure, okay, from some districts or some states, these companies have been established there in order to give employment to the people in those areas, but not on the rational decision whether the situation is good for the establishment of the enterprises in those areas, whether the climatic condition, whether the transport condition and all those facilities are there or no. It is not been seen. Okay, and because of some political pressure, this is the problem of public sector enterprises. For example, there are many sugarcane factories in Maharashtra, in the central part of Maharashtra, and as sugarcane requires a lot of water content to grow, uh, the groundwater level of many regions in Maharashtra has been depleted in such a way that more than 1 lakh villages in Maharashtra are facing water shortages and drought condition throughout the years. So, a high concentration of sugarcane factories by many of the politicians in the Maharashtra have caused the groundwater level to go down, and the water problems, uh, drinking water problem, basically usable water problem in Maharashtra villages in Maharashtra. Okay. The second one is underutilization of capacity. Well, underutilization are one of the common problem constraints for which all the public sector enterprises are suffering. And okay, in 1986-87, out of 175 public sector units, 90 units have been able to utilize over 75% of its capacity, and 56 units achieved utilization of capacity between 50 to 70, and the rest 29 could somehow manage to utilize under 50% of its capacity. So the capacity is being utilized and is not utilized properly. So the some machineries or some resources will be sitting idle throughout the year, as the utilization is not proper, and this underutilization proper will also affect the uh, performance of laborers, performance of the employees working in those sectors. For example, Hindustan Cables, okay, one of a good company in public sector, was now on the verge of closing down, and many locations in which Hindustan Cable Limited factories are located, many have proposed that the company should close down because it is not producing much, and because of the underproduction, the employees are not getting salaries on time. Okay, and the government of India is just paying off the money in order to keep the employees stay there. Okay, so it is basically a loss making company because of this underutilization. Okay, third is absence of rational pricing. Now, no doubt public sector enterprise is made for the welfare of the company, but the prices of those products in order for the welfare have kept low, or in some cases kept very high. So there is no competitive market for this public sector enterprises. Okay, there are few companies which have reduced the prices in such a way that they have increased the expenses, and because of that they are on the verge of closing down. Okay, or else they are very loss making company. Thus, the formal and informal regulations of prices by the government in the interest of the economy and consumers in general and of price stabilization are also responsible for this huge losses incurred by some of these enterprises of our country. For example, Steel Authority of India, because of increased expenses, they are on they are facing huge losses. Next is a technological gap. Okay, some of the public sector enterprises in India are suffering from technological gap, as these enterprises could not adopt to up-to-date technologies in the production system, and leading to high unit cost and lower yield. Okay, as we all are well aware that the upgradation of technology in public sector enterprises is not as par with the private sector enterprises. So the performance in the terms of production is low, so the per unit cost goes up and the total production goes low. So for example, Bharat Electronics Limited, this company was meant to build electronic components for Indian consumers, but we hardly know any of the electronic instrument which has been manufactured by them, and we regularly buy it. We are very well aware of the private electronic companies, starting from mobile phones to consumer for other consumer durables like television, refrigerator, washing machines, and many such items. Bharat Electronics Limited, we know as they are manufacturing the electronic voting machine, EVM we call, for the voting. We know that they manufacture these machines. Rest of the electronic items, I don't recollect anything. Okay. Next is government interference. Much government interference in day-to-day activities of public sector enterprises has reduced the degree of autonomy of the management in respect to employment, pricing, purchase. Okay, so as it is a government company, in some companies, some enterprises, government has too much interference. Okay, because of some many such reasons. So because of this interference, the management who is working there, they are demotivated, or they don't have any decision making authority because of this continuous interference. For example, railways, not everywhere, but in many of the cases, there is much government interference in railways. Okay, so railways often faces these problems. Okay, next one is evil competition and sabotage. Now, between public sector and private sector units within the same industry, sometimes there exists a evil competition, which leads to sabotaging or damaging of public sector units at a large. The best example I can give you is BSNL. BSNL is one time highest profit making company of India in telecom sector. Now it is the highest loss making company of India in telecom sector, because of the advent of all these private companies, starting from Vodafone to Reliance to BSNL, to Jio, and Airtel, and all these companies, they have damaged or sabotaged because of competition. And the performance of BSNL company is, you are well aware of what is the performance condition of BSNL. Okay. Okay, last two are remaining. Marketing constraint. Well, some public sector units are even faced with marketing constraints, where due to repetitive type of production mix, they could not collect a good market, and for some of their products where the market is already captured by some big private industrial houses, leading to a constant increase in inventories. So best example I could find was HMT. Okay. HMT is a wristwatch manufacturing company of government, and once HMT was a leader in watch manufacturing in India. But as and when the technology grew, HMT did not first of all adopt to the technology, and second, the marketing of of this HMT was not done properly. So many of the other watchmaking companies took over the market which HMT has. They didn't made any what do you say, many exciting watches or many fashionable watches. They only stuck to making watches which they had making from past many years. So no such production mix or no different types of innovation in watches, nothing like that, and no marketing done. So it is now been closed. Very recently, HMT has been closed. Okay, last one is surplus manpower. In some of the public sector units, there is a problem of surplus manpower, which is creating drainage of resources unnecessarily, leading to increase in the unit cost of production. And political consideration also have contributed towards overstaffing or unskilled workers in these units. Well, railways is one of the example of surplus manpower in some of the section of the railways. But the example I'm giving here is Air India, because Air India, once Maharatna in the year 2000, is now under Mini Ratna. That means why this has been caused, I have included in surplus manpower, because as the industry standard throughout the world, as an industry standard, one flight requires around 150 to 160 people, starting from the pilot to the air hostesses to the ground staff, everyone included. One flight requires 150 to 160 people to operate per flight. Okay. For the best performer of Indian Airways, if we can say, which is SpiceJet. Uh, uh, yeah, yeah. So SpiceJet and one more, Indigo. Okay, Indigo and SpiceJet are the two good performance. Indigo is now presently good performing. So Indigo employs around 130 people for one flight. So now, if I could compare this with Air India, Air India employs 240 people for one airline, one flight to fly. So there are too many people involved for the working of one flight. So there is surplus manpower in Air India, and because of these, this is one of the reason I'm telling, one of the reason for the loss in Air India, and the loss has become so much that Indian government uh, is not ready to it's ready to sell Air India to anyone. So in the as of now, after, this government has been planning to sell BSNL. This government is planning to sell even LIC and Air India. The main problems are all these. I feel the surplus manpower, the marketing constraints, okay, and the competition is so severe that the government enterprises, the the public sector are not able to cope up with the competition of private sector. Okay, so these were some of the problems of public sector enterprises. So this was all about the public sector which I talked about. So till here, you will be having for your online test. Okay, so this is the last lecture before the online test. Okay, students, thank you for listening.